Good evening, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to 112th edition of Fire Potato. Fire Potato is a monthly technology session hosted by Fire in association with NASSCOM. So this session aims to provide a platform for tech enthusiasts to come together and analyze the various emerging trends in technology. This endeavor aims to provide a platform to analyze and sorry. So this tech this endeavor aims to create such communities that will enable peer group learning. But before the session, let's start with Tech Byte session. For that, I welcome Michal for the Tech Byte session.
So good evening everyone. So I am with here to this month's Tech Bytes. So it's been a great month for UPI since there have been many features introduced in UPI which makes it more safer. So now the RBI along with the UPI has decided that they have increased the per transaction limit to 5 lakh rupees, and also there has been now a 4 window buffer time when you are sending an amount of rupees over 2000, and there will be also a new UPI enabled ATMs where you can withdraw money using your UPI account. And also the great thing, when if you are an investor, you can also invest to stocks by just using your UPI account and not needing a brokerage account. So next, there has been CES event held in Los Angeles, and the main theme of the event was AI. Now the highlight of that event is Rabbit R1. Now our Rabbit R1 is like an AI-enabled smartphone-like device, which here's the video of it. So there is like a scroll wheel button over here in front of it where you can select the menu options of it, and there is also a switch behind the Rabbit R1 where you can like activate the voice assistant. Now with the help of Rabbit R1 you can do all the things such as asking questions and also booking Uber tickets, and also you know navigating and playing songs just by using the voice command. Now the video is demoing and playing a video music. So yeah, that's it. Now after that we have Gemini. Now Google has also leveled up the Gemini's game. There have been many features such as improvements, 10x improvement for natural and multilingual conversations, image effects, music effects, and also increasing the reliability, and also the also preventing the misuse of the AI. Now then there is this is a sample video of it. So here are the points of it. Now there is Lumi Air. That's how it's pronounced. Now what does this tool does actually is like we will be giving it prompts and images, and it will be generating a 5-second video out of it. So here's a sample video of it. Now all these videos are actually generated using a prompt. Yeah, that's it for Lumiere. Now next we have Apple Vision Pro, which have been released in US. Now there have been many videos in available on YouTube where developers are also trying out Vision Pro for development and video editing purposes, and it's still in its initial status as most of the reviews are saying, but the screen quality and also the video quality is actually much greater than expected. This is just a trailer video of it. Next, we have got an AI-powered text editor, which has been released just a month earlier, which is called Z. Now, the features of this thing are like it's designed like a game in which it's like how you render graphic image, graphics in game. That's how it designed. So it uses both your CPU and GPU, and GPT-4 and GitHub Copilot built into it. Now every document collaboration with the other developers. Now what this means is like every file is actually treated as like a CRDF data structure. Now what that means is like each file is like a Google Doc where multiple users can in real time edit the same file and also work on it. Now there are also built-in meeting rooms like Discord channels where they will be able to help meetings and also share their screens. And by using GPU and CPU, it is actually faster than VS Code, and Sublime Text also uses less RAM compared to both of them. It's actually the alpha stage has only been released for macOS currently, and the Linux and Windows are still in the pipeline. So that's all for this month's bites. Thank you.
Thank you, Mishal. Without further delay, let's enter to our main session. Our speakers for the day are Mr. Nitin Nair and Mr. Thomson. Nitin is a senior vice president and leads the network expansion initiative Pan India for mobility, transportation, and travel, along with the overall South India business for open network for digital commerce. Previously, he held roles with Nissan Motors, Uber, and EY, where he managed multiple teams solving for connected cars, tech-enabled urban mobility, and business advisory across India, the Middle East, Europe, and Oceania. As an industry and function leader, he has been instrumental in ONDC, forging successful collaborations with various central and state government entities, large technology platforms, and startups. And next, Thomson is the co-founder and CEO of PlaceOrder.com, the first B2B platform on the ONDC network empowering small, medium, and large enterprises. PlaceOrder.com is today responsible for the significant chunk of B2B orders on the network and enabling many more players to join on the network. Thomson and his co-founders closely work with the core team at ONTC, focusing on enabling business-relevant use cases and together are expanding their horizons. With that, I welcome Nitin and Thomson to the floor.
Check. Hello. Check.
Hello.
So, hi friends. It's a privilege for Nitin and I to be here amongst you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And even as we stand here, we're really thrilled about where, in what we are working, what engages us day in and day out, and happy to share from our experience. And even as we say, demystifying ONDC, I just want to take each of us back, maybe even before some of us were born, to the time and era when internet was just being born. When internet was just born, we never could imagine what internet could do. We couldn't imagine that on internet we can click and book food and it gets delivered, or you can order groceries and it comes within 10 minutes, And all of this is possible because of that network. And today where ONDC stands is something similar. But let us continue from where the internet was born. Internet was a set of protocols designed, said, and stated by few of the big brains then. And it wouldn't be there today if creators were not there. Creators are the clear reason why internet is living and breathing. None of us would go into a social media which does not have posts. None of us would go to a marketplace which does not have products. We would not download an app that would not have any music to stream. And it is funny that, as much as creators are the reason why platforms thrive and grow and scale, it is in the control of a few companies that the entire internet or the platforms are in. And I believe the clear purpose of a grand idea like ONDC that has come up on a layer over the backend is to bring back the freedom, bring back the control into the hands of these creators. And each one of us have the opportunity to do that very well. What ONDC brings to us is a set of blocks, framework, tools, let's say the building materials. And it is for us to use these building materials, these building blocks, and bring out what best we believe is a solution. It does not have to be a complete, entire, seller app or a buyer app as we see it today. The easiest that people could understand initially when the protocols could be used was a B2C, say, break down what Amazon is doing or Flipkart is doing, but it's much more beyond that. As ONDC unfolds, we will see what more it can offer. And we do not have to choose to do a big role. We can even choose something as small as, I think we can discuss that, but even as small as maybe passwords, locations, etc. on ONDC and get a massive scale for the use of our software or our solution and make good revenue while helping a lot of others to benefit. So having said this pretty long introduction of a small introduction I wanted to, I'll hand over the mic to Nitin, and he'll start off with what ONDC is today, and we'll move forward from there.
Thanks, Thomson. I think the introduction was fairly grand from being a short one, and it's truly humbling to think at the vision at what we are trying to accomplish. And therefore, I will quickly get started. But before I do that, since a lot of you have spent time understanding backend, etc., how many of you have heard of ONDC? But for this ad coming your way and asking to come here, how many of you have heard of ONDC? Okay, a few. Okay, that's a good start. I mean, we're not a very old organization, so it's not that a lot of people know about this. How many of you have heard? And know is one, heard of ONDC? Good. So I think then I mean, just sets the record for me to on the kind of depth I want to cover and helps you understand, how much the audience knows. So essentially, ONDC is a Government of India backed initiative, which is to increase e-commerce penetration in India, right? So if you look at e-commerce penetration, right, India is at about 6 to 7%. We take B2B, it's about 1.5%, versus other markets like China at 25 to 30%, Indonesia at 20-25%, right? And even the US at about 14 to 16%, fairly penetrated compared to India. And if you look at Kirana stores, the small stores, right, our penetration is a round off error. There's not, I mean, it's not even something worth calling a penetration. And a lot of the penetration is restricted to tier 1 cities, right? There'll be a few exceptions like Trivandrum, where tier 2 also has good penetration. But as you move away from tier 1 and move to tier 2, tier 3 cities, the penetration kind of drops, right? People still buy the old way. So that's the starting point to say that our goal is to dramatically step change e-commerce and increase penetration significantly. So that begs the question, right? That we're a growing economy, doing well, so much happened on UPI, payments have exploded, in terms of being digitized, etc. What impedes e-commerce penetration in India, right? What is it that needs to be solved? Take a step back and say, okay, one is that we continue to grow the existing market the way it is, versus take a slightly more fundamental approach and first principles approach to say what impedes e-commerce growth in India. So some of the things that came up, right? Sellers have limited choice to be online. If I'm a seller, I build a website, and then the problem of digital marketing comes in. How do I get people to come to my website? Building a website is a fairly solved problem with all the automation products, etc. available. I think if you have a basic catalog or some amount of content, in a few minutes you can probably go live, right? We've reached there, right? But that doesn't really translate into customers coming and buying, right? It's the same whether you are a store, whether you are a website. That awareness, consideration, entire marketing funnel problem of how do I bring consumers here and get them to buy continues to be there, right? So that remains a challenge. The alternative is to look at some of the larger e-commerce platforms, right? And that's a good place to go back and say, okay, I can join the platform, I can upload my inventory, but a lot of the way the platform operates is one-sided, right? The platform will set the terms, the platforms have commission structures that you don't have any leverage of negotiating. While the platform brings in several benefits, including potentially orders, you will pay for order, you'll pay for marketing, and you'll also be at a set of terms and conditions that the platform kind of drives, right? Having said that, so the overall discoverability still remains a challenge, right? I set up a website, right? I can't be found, right? And even if I were to put all of this together, I still need to stitch the value chain, right? I need to have a website, I need to have an order management system, I need to manage returns, packaging, logistics, whole bunch of things that currently are onerous for a small business, right? Any small business aspiring to go online. These are all onerous problems which may not be easy, right? So with that in mind, right, ONDC was set up with two very, very fundamental and interrelated principles, right? Unbundling plus interoperability, right? Now, these are not new principles. These have existed in business. You want to settle down? They've existed in business for a fairly long time, right? Let's take an IT outsourcing company, right? You are doing parts of what a company's IT team would have done, right? Build an application, manage applications, manage ERPs, manage networks, technology, manage web applications for all you know, right? So if you take a step back and say, what is unbundling, right? Today, an e-commerce platform broadly has a couple of parts, right? There's a core technology platform that is built, right? That platform has a seller side, which is probably a seller app or a seller website where the seller joins, registers, gives his documents, uploads his catalog, etc. And then there is the consumer side, which is probably which is usually a mobile app, which you as a consumer will use, right? You go to any platform, they have a mobile app for the consumer side, right? These are the two broad parts connected by this platform at the back end. Right? That's broadly what every e-commerce setup, right? Whether you take food, whether you take mobility, travel, you take grocery, any place, this is the broad structure that exists, right? We said, let's take a fundamental look and, why is this e-commerce model having viability challenges? So one of the things we realized that the reason that the commission structures are onerous is because these businesses have been built on business models where that e-commerce entity does everything, right? Let's absorb that. That one e-commerce entity attempts to do everything. It builds the tech, it builds the supply, it builds the demand, it does the marketing, and it also manages that entire show by itself, right? And this is a good time to say, but how do traditional businesses, which have complex businesses, manage, right? You typically, whether you look at automotive, whether you look at, manufacturing, whether you look at financial services, you would outsource a few parts of your business to specialist companies, right? The entire Indian BPO, KPO, ITES industry is a manifestation of businesses saying, I can find better, more experienced, and cheaper resources to do it, who will bring in efficiency, and scale to therefore bring overall better outcome than if I were to do it myself, right? That's the start of the entire outsourcing paradigm, right? Now, let's look at the same thing in the e-commerce world, right? Let's for a minute say, there is the buyer app, there is the seller app, right? Keeping it simple. Can this be done by two different entities, right? And for a minute, you know, humor me as it as an oversimplification. Saying that two different entities do this, right? So then what happens? These two different entities need to talk to each other, right? Now, you may want to, on either side, as a buyer app or a seller app, want to talk to multiple entities, right? And therefore, now there is a need for a communication medium which simplifies this entire interchange, right? Because all of this is happening at runtime, automated. It's not people picking up the phone and calling and saying, I need this, right? This is systems talking to each other, right? Therefore, then you come down and say you need to be interoperable, right? Any buyer app talking to any seller app needs to be able to talk using a common language and be able to be interoperable, right? So I think for techies, this is a little bit of an oversimplification. Let's look at email, right? 40 years ago, somebody wrote a protocol called SMTP. So if I have an email ID and you have an email ID, I send you that email. We don't need to figure out how it reaches you, right? The name, the subject, the to address, all of this will get resolved thanks to the SMTP protocol written 40 years ago, and the email will reach you, right? We are not discussing how will my IT server ping your IT server, or how the network will get set up. Is there a VPN involved? None of this comes in, right? It's a simple. I write a mail ID, right? I type an email, I press send, it gets to you, right? And that's broadly what ONDC is attempting with the ONDC protocol based on backend for commerce, that a buyer, one of you, right, on a buyer application, right, using the ONDC protocol is able to talk to a seller on a seller application, right? This seller could be, a food joint right outside, right? It could be a grocery store, right? It could be a fashion brand sitting in Bangalore, right? Anybody else, and be able to buy and sell to each other seamlessly. So the key thing is the buyer on the buyer application, and this could be 1 to n, right? Any number of buyer applications are able to interact with any number of sellers on the seller applications. So let me try and, picture this slightly differently, right? Let's look at today. How does e-commerce happen, right? Let's take any domain. There are about 2 platforms, right? The first column is what typically you as a consumer will do. You will look at search for product, build a cart, go to payment gateway, pay, and an order is placed, right? That's what consumers do, right? The middle column is what typically a seller will do. I'll join, I'll create a catalog of my products, descriptions, pricing, quantity, etc. When I get an order, I'll work on order fulfillment. And then if there are returns, cancellations, etc., those processes I'll manage. And of course, if an order is placed for a goods, then there is the entire thing around logistics, right? 3 broad columns, right? Now today, platform one's buyer app, which is the consumer side here, right? Is there a pointer? Interacts with the seller side and the logistics side using proprietary protocols, right? These are their own internal systems talking to each other, right? And this is something as techies you will appreciate. Platform 2 also does the exact same thing at a structural level. They may have nuances and they have their own set of proprietary protocols to talk to each other, right? And therefore, there is no opportunity for somebody on platform 1 to interact with platform 2, right? If I have to be interacting with somebody else on platform, if I'm on platform 1 and I have to interact with somebody on platform 2, I have to go join platform 2, right? Either as a buyer or as a seller, right? If I'm a buyer on platform 1, I want to interact with the seller on platform 2, right? I need to go and join platform 2 as a buyer, and vice versa, right? And therefore, there is a base level of inefficiency built into it, right? Now let's look at the ONDC ecosystem. How does this change, right? So I said what consumers do, they come on buyer applications, right? They talk to sellers on seller applications and logistics guys on logistics applications through a common open interoperable protocol, which is the ONDC protocol, right? Now, this isn't just an academic rearrangement, right? It's not like we built some blocks and said, okay, it's good to have protocols, right? This creates some powerful opportunities and worth exploring, right? Now, any retail buyer is talking to any retail seller application, and whole this network of conversations get enabled because everybody is using a common protocol. And I'll talk about a few examples of what's happened live in a bit. But anybody can talk to anybody because the language is now common, right? It's the SMTP of commerce. Now, going further, so what does this mean, right? Anybody who has a base of consumers, right, may not be doing e-commerce. And that's why if you see some of the early adopters of the ONDC protocol are fintech companies, right? They have large consumer bases. They're not e-commerce entities, but they can very easily become a retail buying application if they build the base capability of say a few screens, the protocol connectors, etc., and start interacting with sellers who are being onboarded by retail seller applications, right? Earlier, if anybody had to do e-commerce, they had to do all 3, right? Now, you can do e-commerce by doing one or more as your choice. And that's the power of what we're trying to kind of change, right? So, who's a retail buying application? Any application with a large consumer base, right? Like I said, fintech, banking, telecom, it could be anybody, right? If any of you run applications, have a decent customer base and are thinking about monetizing it, right? You don't need to look beyond the network to find inventory to monetize, right? So to give you an example, Ola is now trying to sell food again, right? Paytm is in about 8-10 categories, right? Trying to offer everything from fruit, grocery, beauty, fashion, right? And mobility soon. So a bunch of things that, as a retail buying application can do, right? Similarly, on the seller side, right? Who will bring the seller, right? So there are several applications that, you go to a retail supermarket, they have a point of sale, right? We all swipe our cards, get our bills printed. That's your point of sale device, right? Or a point of sale application. A lot of them also have payment applications or back-end inventory management ERP applications, mini ERPs that running the supermarket or equivalent, right? You can move that, that's fine. Those phones you can move. Yeah. So now these guys have been working with supermarkets and stores for eternity, right? They have built capability, they understand store operations, etc. Now imagine that you are a supermarket, you already have an IT system inside that manages your business, right? Which also opens up a channel for you to start getting e-commerce orders, right? So Kunal Supermarket start getting orders on their POS because the POS is now integrated into the ONDC network, right? And a customer on Paytm in the vicinity of Kunal Supermarket, as an example, right, is able to place an order to Kunal Supermarket. With both parties have never interacted. Neither has Kunal spoken to Paytm or vice versa. Both have connected to the ONDC network and use the network's ONDC protocol to interact with each other, right? And therefore, what happens is again a new set of businesses, right? Sellers, right? POS systems, ERP companies, anybody who's dealing with B2C companies or equivalents or even large businesses has an internal IT application for them can suddenly start becoming a source of orders for that business. Yeah. Moving on, similarly, the whole thing happens on logistics, right? Anybody who's got a fleet, right? Not even a fleet, anybody who can, get together 10 boys to start doing delivery, you can immediately start fleet companies, right? So if you look at it, you ask anybody who's tried to do a mobility application or a logistics application, they die with demand, right? It's never the supply. Everybody gets 10, 15, 20 people, and then you have to scratch your head to figure out where will I get demand from, right? Where do I find the orders from so that I keep the fleet busy? And the demand supply matching doesn't happen till scale, and therefore it's always a challenge. So anybody can now potentially start a logistics business, right? So if you look at it, this unbundling plus interoperability brings in a whole new set of possibilities that get just opened up, right? Therefore, this is what the overall logical, representation of the ONDC network looks like, right? You are a buyer, some of you are, probably all of you are on a buyer app, and it could be A, B, or more connected to the ONDC network. This deck is available. This is public. Don't worry about it. We'll share it, right? We are open in the true sense, right? None of our information is proprietary, right? Everything is on the OGL open license also, right? Coming back, you are a seller on a seller app, interacting with that buyer, using logistics A or B to be able to, send that goods, right? So let's take this logical flow and see where are we today, right? So we have 13 buyer applications with more than 100 million customers, and you see some big names there: Paytm, Nammayatri, Kotak, Redbus, Rapido, Yari, a whole bunch, who are working with 13 logistics applications. Again, a lot of the big names in logistics, which are working with 46 seller applications, right? So that is 46 plus 26, 72. 72 applications are live, right? And another 70 or are in probationary prod, and another about 200 under active integration, and a whole large pipeline behind it, right? So we have onboarded close to 3 lakh sellers, 1.4 crore SKUs, right? Which are available via these buyer apps. So if you're a consumer, you should be thinking about joining the buyer apps, opening the buyer apps and searching for where the ONDC products are. If you are a seller, or if you know who is a seller, talk to one of these apps to get onboarded, right? And if you're on the logistics side, similarly, right? And if you're a techie, right, somebody on the tech side, think about building one of these, right? And that's the opportunity, right? Suddenly, pre-ONDC, you had to build the entire stack to be able to launch a business. Build the tech, figure out demand, figure out supply, or figure out supply, then figure out demand, right? Versus in the post-ONDC era, you have to figure out only one of these components and get started. You can actually just build a seller application and onboard entire Karakutam, right? And then figure out where the demand will come from, right? But today, if you were to build an application, onboard the entire Karakutam, market, right? You will have to then figure out there's no, I mean, then hopefully raise capital, find some money, do digital marketing, to be creative, whatever, to build a business. Versus if you get entire Calcutta online, probably between PhonePe, Paytm, and the likes of it, right? Pin code actually, PhonePe has launched a dedicated app for ONDC called Pin code, right? And see, what you can get out of that, right? Uh, Moving on, so like I said, it's a huge pipeline, thousands of companies integrating as we speak. We are very early days, right? You'll see a lot of who's who names there, and I'm not going to get into individual details, right? I'll skip this for now, right? So here is another slide that I want to, kind of bring attention to. These logos, names are illustrative, but just want to talk about how the protocol enables, right? So there is Vijay who logs into his favorite buyer application and does a search to buy Atta, right? The search gets broadcast via the gateway, the ONDC gateway, to multiple providers, right? And the following two, Gupta Kirana store as an example, this is a Delhi example, and Big Basket with fulfilled by modern Kirana store and delivery included, both of them make an offer, right? One says, 50 rupees, the other says 150 rupees inclusive of delivery, right? That's the difference in price that you see there, right? That's one way that this business happens. The customer buys, customer orders from Big Basket, no delivery, right? Delivery is taken care, 150 paid, everything done. Customer buys from Gupta Kirana store, he will then have to place a logistics order also, right? The point is, all of this is enabled today by the protocol, right? And the third thing can happen that, Vijay himself, okay, says, I'll get delivery by Dunzo, right? And the third method can also come in that one of the stores says, I'll do free delivery, right? All of these different permutations and combinations of transactions are available on the protocol. The protocol doesn't govern it, right? It depends on what as a buyer app you want to offer the customer. You may not want to offer unbundled delivery. That's what Big Basket said, right? I'm not offering unbundled delivery. I want to give you one offer. Whereas somebody else says, I'll give you the best price on the food that you want to buy. You figure out delivery outside, right? Versus somebody says, I'll give you delivery, but delivery is free. You don't need to look for a logistics guy. You are in the vicinity, I will send somebody and deliver, right? All of these models are possible and enabled on the protocol, right? So protocol is truly open, flexible, and it leaves the choice to the buyer app, the seller app, and the logistics apps to determine on what terms they want to work, right? If you go back to the early thing, right? What commission are they willing to pay? Do they want to take logistics from the network, not take from the network? Do they want to offer a bundle deal? All of that is left to whoever is joining the network. Yeah. So, I mean, Trivandrum, I don't know how many apps are live, but broadly you'll see some of these apps available here and be able to, the slide will come your way. And, try placing an order and tell us what you think. Moving on, I'll just pick up. So, the other thing about the network is, as a seller, right? Say you're a store, right? You can also be a buyer, right? Which means as a store, how I interact with my distributors, how I interact with somebody like a Unilever or a P&G also will go through the network. So as a store, you don't need to, wait for somebody to call and get your orders, etc. Everything that you need to do may also. So the seller of grocery is also a buyer on the network. I'll give you another example. If you're a mobility guy, if you're a auto driver, right? The insurance you want to buy, the credit you need, right? If you want to make a mutual fund investment, if at all of that is going to be available on the network, right? So you don't really need to go out and figure out all of this, right? We're fundamentally looking at empowering people like auto drivers to be able to get best price rather than, do price discovery outside. So this is where we are today. A bunch of things live, right? B2C, we have food, grocery, home and kitchen, electronics, beauty, personal care, agri, health and wellness, fashion, metro, and mobility. Right? These many things are live. B2B, we have grocery, fashion, cross-border trade, services, we have logistics. Financials, we have just done our first credit transaction. A loan has been sanctioned on the network, right? And we have services coming in, right? So I think I'll leave it to Thomson to talk more about the B2B journey that he's undertaken. He's our first B2B app to go live. Moving on, so let's take an example. I'm going to keep this slide quick, right? Today, if you have to travel, you have to buy things from multiple places, right? Tickets, accommodation, language, everything else you'll buy from different places, right? On the ONDC network, since multiple inventory is available at one place, you can possibly have buyer apps curating it and giving it to you as a single cart, right? Today, this cart is a difficult experience because if I have to get flights, get hotel, get service apartments, right? There is a huge cost involved in building that inventory versus somebody's built that inventory or is building that inventory and plug it into the network. Any buyer app can consume it. And therefore, the opportunity to offer integrated carts, right? And there are many implications of this. For example, you're buying a railway ticket, right? Your first mile and last mile can also be purchased in the same buy, right? You're buying an airline ticket, ditto, right? And so on and so forth. So many possibilities emerge, right? So what does it mean from a buyer, seller, tech company perspective, right? For buyers, there is single platform access. Your favorite app will be able to do most of the stuff that you want, right? You don't need to go to multiple apps, right? Potentially, right? Uh, you will have wider option for price, delivery, etc. Because today, discovery is a platform one, platform two, platform three problem, right? I have to go everywhere, check, right? If I'm buying an Adidas shoe and I want to figure out, where I can get it cheap, it's 5 portals that I go to, right? Whereas on the network you search, the buyer app will figure out which is the best deal and give it to you, right? Similarly, the buying experience will become the differentiator rather than just the discount, etc. So that those will bring in value. Similarly, for sellers, going back to the original problem, right? Discoverability improves, but you don't need to compromise on terms and conditions of business, right? The network will also offer an integrated experience, right? Autonomy and rules and terms, you're not bound by any rules. Nobody will say that, oh, if you don't respond to this request or set of requests, right, you will get downranked, right? Problems like that don't exist because you fundamentally have a choice if you want to respond to a request. It's not a ranking system based on how often do you respond and how well you respond, right? And the other two, three important things, right? While there is a whole bunch of seller apps that come in, a seller is network portable. What that means is if you are a driver on a, mobility app, right? Today, if you have a problem with that app, you may be 5,000 trips, 10,000 trips. There is a TIF, there is a problem. You leave that platform and join another platform. It is day 0, trip 1, rating 5, right? Or rating whatever that comes in, right? Versus and you may be 4.95, 10,000 trips, outstanding, 6 stars, all of that. But the moment you leave the platform, all of that goes away. Versus on the ONDC network, your reputation is portable. You have unique IDs. And therefore, if you move from platform A to platform B, right, your entire reputation will move with you. Your transactions will not. Your reputation, because that's what you own, will move with you, right? What will also happen is, in no way does your discoverability on the network get impeded, because when you're new, there is always the thing of, platforms are also figuring you out, right? How do you respond to the initial set of orders, etc., right? All of those problems hopefully will also not come your way. So that's a huge advantage. That's the portability and no disintermediation risk. For tech companies, right? Like I said, if you are, Mhm. Sorry, don't do what? We do, right? That the rating is on the network. No, no. See, look at it this way, that there is a disadvantage that every seller has when they start on a network with a bunch of established sellers, right? That problem will be relatively less because you will not be, for the lack of a right, discriminated for being new, right? Mhm. You see, ONDC does not govern whether you want an additional rating system. What we are trying to do is build a network-wide reputation ledger, right? Because rating, and now that you're going into it, I'm not the expert on rating, but a few things, right? Rating is one of the biggest problems that platform face because sellers game ratings all the time, right? Both ways, right? Good and bad, right? I want to compete with somebody, rating, you spend money to game that network. I want to improve my network, my rating, I game the network, right? So this has been a historical problem, right? If you look at Amazon, it will say verified, right? Because this guy has actually made a purchase and not just put a 5-star and written story there, right? Stuff like that is a part. So a lot of that we want to structurally solve. That's why we said reputation is on the network. So it's not to say that the reputation is not required, but to say that it doesn't become a blocker for people, new people to join the network being able to move, right? Anyway, moving on for tech companies, right? Like I said earlier, if you're an ERP company working in different businesses, you provide additional value to your customers. If your product company is doing a specific, thing for a kirana, for a MSME, for a big company, you can give them e-commerce orders as long as you can convert into a catalog, right? Similarly, you know, look at how do you quickly build something. Like historically, a lot of tech people don't enter e-commerce because the business is complex and there is a cost to doing things that you're not an expert at, right? Like marketing, for example, right? Now, if you find a way to onboard a seller quickly, right? Let's take food as an example, right? Every restaurant is a 10-item catalog, right? A picture, a description, a price, right? Food catalogs are relatively simple compared to grocery, right? One of you can, probably code it up and say, okay, there is a seller app on ONDC network, which is onboarded all of Karakutam as an example, right? Or wherever you live, right? And then let's see where it goes. And if you look at it, it's you working with the sellers with hopefully the demand coming from the other side, on the buyer application side. Now, as they see a good service provider, a good seller, right, it'll automatically start generating that traction, right? So, many things including loyalty as opportunities to be built. So, yeah, so I think this is an important slide. ONDC is an open network capability and infrastructure. We're not an application or a platform. You can't download the ONDC app. You can't log into ONDC. You're backend infrastructure, right? So you can't go to ONDC and buy, right? This question I keep getting pretty often that, oh, how do I get started, right? How do I download where do I find the ONDC app and start downloading? You'll still, use one of your favorite apps that are on the network to do the transactions that you want to do, right? Infinite models fertile for innovation. I'm going to leave it open. With all of this happening, with the unbundling happening, people are reimagining how businesses could be run, right? Ratings is one conversation that, people have started to trigger. A lot of other ideas emerging. People are coming up with newer business ideas. We're talking about ticketing being unbundled, right? Like, why is the zoo ticket so complex, right? It's finally a QR code being verified, right? Stuff like that, okay, I'll build and make the zoo, right? And every day we hear new ideas on how an open network could be leveraged, right? There is no central intermediary. It's an important point. So in the transaction flow, after the discovery is done, right? The search to discovery is via the network infrastructure. After the discovery is done, transactions are peer-to-peer. So your buyer app and seller app don't go through the ONDC network in terms of the transaction, fulfillment or the transaction itself, right? That's peer-to-peer, right? We are a market and community-led initiative. We are backed by the government of India, but we are a market and community-led initiative with multiple players who've come together to kind of set up ONDC as a Section 8 not-for-profit company to kind of execute this vision, right? So you're a truly made in India digital revolution, right? This is our advisory council. With this came 6 months before the company. I think it was set up in August 2021. Some of the leading names you see there, and basis that ONDC was set up in December of 21. We did our first beta launch in September 22. We are in a whole bunch of cities now, 2.98 lakh sellers, 1.4 crore products, and 550 plus cities where we are doing beta and alpha testing, right? So fairly early days, at least from our part. Yeah, I'm not going to go there. Broadly, that's an introduction. I'm going to now invite Thomson to come, and he's one of our esteemed apps on the network, and come and talk about his journey as an NP.
So just before that, if you have any questions, I know that there are certain companies are also.
So right now, how much demand is there via ONDC? I can see the number of people selling in the apps that are there. How many buyers are there?
So I've not seen the Jan final numbers. December we did about close to 6 million transactions.
And what's the growth rate?
Okay, I mean CAGR computation we did in Jan, we were about 12 or 1800 transactions for the entire month. Okay. In December we are close to 6 million. I think about 6 million transactions happened in December.
Okay.
That's why I've never really sat down to do CAGR. It doesn't make sense, but growing at a fair pace.
Okay.
New cities are coming up, new domains getting open.
Right. And who governs ONDC? You said you are backed by the government of India. So who really governs the whole thing? And how do we trust that?
You have to, so that's a good question. So let's look at who are the investors in ONDC, right? We've got the leading banks, leading development institutions like SIDBI, SIDCO, NABARD, that has a professional board, right? Our board representation has government nomination. We have 3 central secretaries. Chairman of the board is appointed by the government. And we have a user council of all the apps that are on the network to sort of govern and set the framework. Whereas ONDC itself operates and manages the network. Right? So ONDC, so your question again is stems from the platform model, right? So you are in your head saying, how do I trust this versus a platform, right? So let me correct that there, right? Think of it this way, you're not buying from ONDC. You will continue to buy from an app that you know, right? And that app is now operating with other companies together to deliver the product or service that is there. Let's go back. Let's take a car,
So,
right? Let's take a car.
I just had a follow-up question to that. So,
Let me just finish this and I'll come to that question, right? I'll just lose the thread otherwise, right? Let's take a car, right? Anybody's driven a car? Any brand that you want to pick? Honda, right? What car do you drive? Drive, right? Who built the infotainment system for that? Somebody built the infotainment system. Somebody built the cluster. Somebody built even as simple as tires, right? All of these things were built by different companies, which Honda put together, right? And sold it to you, right? If you have a problem with the cluster, right, you don't go contact that company, right? So if you bought a car from Honda. Similarly, you're buying a product or a service from a buyer app, right? Whom will you go and talk to if you have a problem? Right? Right? So that structure doesn't change. Right? What's changed is behind the buyer app what was happening. Right? Behind the platform what was happening is kind of getting reorganized. So from a consumer buying experience, you're still like you buy from Paytm. Paytm is responsible to solve any problem that you have, or PhonePe, or anybody, right? Just because there are new operators and it is different from how you have seen the platform model of e-commerce, doesn't mean that there is no precedence for this model. If you actually look at it, most businesses operate with sellers, suppliers, and an ecosystem of people, right? They put it together and give it to you, right? You must be providing services on some application that your client uses to provide some service to its customer, a CRM.
But the trust is with the, that is, we are having direct connection with the, or contact with the vendor, right? Here we do not know that.
Not necessarily. No, think about it. Right? I'll go back to the tire example, right? So if you have a tire burst on the road and it's an Apollo tires, do you call Apollo tires or do you call Honda? That's what. So I think the point is, platforms have built a certain mental model of how businesses on e-commerce should be, right? We're fundamentally relooking at saying that there are more efficient models, and collectively companies come together and try and do it. There may be a lot more efficient models available, and therefore there is an opportunity to build out businesses which can be a lot more fairer to sellers than they are today. Yeah. Do we want to park the questions till Thomson kind of gets done? I'll probably pick them up after that.
And I think we can you hear me? Yeah. And I think we can pepper the questions in between also. But I'd want to not speak a lot of things that we have planned out. I think, if we've had 100 topics, 100 points to say, maybe 10 is all potentially what we can cover now, and we can plan out for any other sessions as required for what, our crowd here needs. So for all the points that is raised over here, starting from, let's say, reputation management to issues management and all of it, ONDC is giving a framework and an answer. But who will answer the question or who will give the solution would be the participants on the network, who would be responsible or the front end or the face. So just to quickly start off, I feel very much a part of ONDC inside out, more than what we feel as part of just an app or a platform. And I think if we all come with that same thought process, we'll be able to clearly understand, demystify, and leverage and use it. Because ONDC as a company, a Section 8 company, like how Nitin said, gives you the framework to think. But if you sit in on your own ideas and use the framework, you can execute and bring up solutions that can solve the problem for which you feel as a question that you have that you want answer for. Now, how did we get into this? Way back when the backend protocol came, we had a discussion inside, the co-founders and we thought we should backendify our platform, Rapidor. Rapidor stands for Rapid Operations Research. We help small and medium enterprises. We help in the B2B trade, business to business trade, transaction and everything. But the one single question that one of my co-founders, he asked was, if you do all this backendification, will somebody come and buy your product or your solution because you have put backend into it? And the simple answer was no. It was just gaining traction. It was at that time only for mobility. But suddenly when we saw ONDC take on that layer of backend, the framework or the protocols that were designed, that were set up, that is exhaustive to a large extent, yet can be further, can be further enriched. We thought if B2C is being done, B2B definitely can be done. And we reached out, and the kind of welcome we got from the ONDC team was amazing. Sat together, discussed protocols, how best it can be done, started working, went ahead, went live. Today we are able to claim a significant portion of the B2B trade transactions happening on our platform. But of course, the purpose of ONDC is that a lot more people will come in and a lot more people can do that. So what does Rapidor do specifically? Before, just wanted to quickly highlight and say, we help small and medium industries solve for challenges that they have, which is volatile margins, difficulty to manage people, and they feel that to do all of this, if you have a software, it's going to be very expensive. And then we move, when we worked ahead specifically, we did go around, work around with people. We have got the ground experience of having clearly sat together, done the business with them and understand the problems. And this sort of an experience has given us the kind of benefit to go ahead and create simple solutions that gives them plug and play options to completely manage their entire operations, move ahead with trade and manage their people. So if you see, we were always in the business of B2B, and we've been working, enabling businesses to have solid impact. Solid impact like what you would see here, that we help them increase the sales by 25% in the first year. That's like, double-digit crore rupees. And we move ahead and enable them to reduce their errors and have everything managed centrally. But now why I'm saying this is because you all would be in some position today which is totally different from ONDC, not just with e-commerce and everything. And when we talk of ONDC, e-commerce or B2C, B2B is only the tip of the iceberg. We talk today saying that UPI, so many transactions are happening, so many activities are going on. But when we see 5 years back, we wouldn't imagine that, we could pay our domestic help at home or somebody, a stranger via mobile. We couldn't imagine. But today we have got amazing number of transactions and scale that is happening. And the same is the case with ONDC. UPI is the tip of the iceberg, and ONDC is like maybe 7 or 8 icebergs put together. That's the kind of mindset that you need to bring in when you work on ONDC. And when we have to work on it specifically, we spoke a lot that the future being, this is Koshi, the CEO at ONDC, and an amazing person who says what can be clearly, if you can imagine it, you can get it done, specifically when it comes to trade transactions and beyond. So what is the exact activities that, we all spoke of very specific things. What have we done? We do not go inside a cave and build something really huge and big and then you come out and try to see if it's working or not. We had to also unlearn a lot of things we saw in ONDC, like everyone was thinking, become a buyer app separate, become a seller app separate. And when we came to the B2B side, what we understood ourselves was in the B2B space, a person who is buying on wholesale would be either using it for consumption or to further sell it ahead. So he becomes a buyer and a seller at the same time. He needs to have 2 avatars. Now, this is not something that was coded or written on ONDC papers. You have to think about it yourself. You sit and see what's the problem you want to solve. The same way, if you would be thinking about what is the specific case that you want to solve, you'll have many solutions, many ideas, many clear cases that you can address for. This gentleman here, he had asked about reputation, like how do you manage it? So the engine that ONDC is putting together is coming in one step at a time. So you will have over here something called a reputation ledger, where you see the mouse pointer is. That one block itself can give an opportunity for hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s of companies to come up with solutions that can clearly be done. You can just imagine that a company let's say, how can I draw the parallel of reputation here? We all use UPI. We all have got either Google Pay or Phone Pay. Anybody has got only one of those, or most of us have both? How many of us have both? Right? Most of us have both. Almost everybody has both. When I try to transfer 100 rupees to you, and if Google Pay is not working, do I tell you that, oh, it's not working, tomorrow let me check? No, you expect me to really log off from Google Pay, log into Phone Pay, try it on Phone Pay and finish it off, correct? What do you carry with you when you log off on Google Pay and get into Phone Pay? You carry with you your reputation of what is the bank balance, what is the ledger of the amount, the money that you have. Same way over here, you will be able to log off on, let's say, Uber and log into Ola and still have the same number of rides like what Nitin said. He did not specifically use these names, but that's what he mentioned specifically. Now, in our case, you do not like our application on the ONDC network is called placeorder.com. You can place an order for anything you would want. As we bring this out into the ecosystem, come up with our buyer app, seller app, I had another question that was asked, how much is the traction, right? How many orders are happening? How many millions are happening? Now, the question that I would want to ask you is, today, if you go ahead and buy one new mobile phone, new mobile SIM number, how many people are going to call you? What is the traction that mobile number will have for you? What is it? Zero. Zero is a simple answer. You will get 0 calls on that mobile number now and for a very long time till you go ahead and say, this is my number. Not even your own mother will call you because she doesn't know, correct? So asking for a traction on ONDC is not, a relevant question, I would say. Asking for traction on UPI today is just a number we are monitoring. On day 0, how much are people using? It's not sensible because people don't know. Now, as the government is backing and a lot of understanding, relevance is coming into the play, you will have more and more people coming in, searching and finding and discovering. The point is, if you're not on ONDC through one of the apps as a seller, through a seller app, or as a seller app to say that I will bring more sellers in, if you're not there, you will get 100% sure you'll get 0 transactions, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, correct? But if you're on it, as the network matures, you will understand and find ways in which how you would want to bring in the transactions. Today, we are able to have a good number of transactions on our platform, not because ONDC was saying, come on our platform, bring your seller app, bring your sellers, we will give you orders. No. It's because we saw the platform, we saw the network, we brought in our platform. We brought in the sellers and said, you have to be patient. Every time we do a sales, now that's the difference between what Nitin is doing and what I'm doing. Where Nitin is trying to evangelize and say, ONDC can do this, guys, come in with your seller apps. Now, I'm one level below with the ground market that says, hey, we have come into the seller apps, sellers come in. And possibly you can get orders. When we go to these sellers and talk to them, even the big names or the small names, they'll ask, if I come to your network, how many orders will I get? And my simple answer is, I can guarantee you 0 orders if you don't come. And if you come, with time, you'll need to grow your network and let the understanding be and let your publicity happen. And we can leverage a lot of things. We can leverage the ONDC team for it. We can leverage the ONDC's machinery for it to a large extent and get the visibility to and come there. What are the sort of apps, applications that you can make? Anything. I would say anything. So what are we doing today? While we have bought in the buyer app and the seller app both in a single platform, we are looking at seeing how can we reduce the friction of a trade that's happening. In B2B space, what happens is that we cannot do the big margin, like, 2%, 5% margins, we cannot charge in B2B. The business will not come in over here. They already have some set way of handling the business. But what we can do here is we can reduce the friction of the payables. People will come and say, I want the money, I cannot pay before 45 days. And that is the problem we are solving. We'll come up with a button that says you can click on this and then, trade will happen because you will connect with multiple banks that are on the ONDC network. Because some other company has taken the effort of bringing them as a seller of credit, seller of loans, seller of working capital finance. Some other company took the trouble and bought them and they're presenting them there. I only have to ping and see who can give what loan at what rate for this company for the risk that he is going to show that he's going to give the bank. So I hope it is not too complex. I mean, it was okay, right, for what I've said so far. So that is just one level of innovation. Now tomorrow, if someone says that moving out from phone pay and going into Google, I'm missing out the transaction side in phone pay. I can't see it here. Someone can think and work out on a solution for that. The parallel for that in ONDC is you can take all your details about it, always store it and have it in your central repository. You as a third party solution provider, enabling them. Someone will find value for it because he doesn't have to depend on any of the buyer apps or the seller apps. He's not stuck with them. He can immediately choose to click a button and switch. Today that switch is not there. That could be a possible solution. People are thinking I need to make a complete buyer app or a complete seller app. No. You can a lot of other different services. A lot of businesses do not know, cannot find it easy to update their inventory. You can make a connector that connects with the SAPs or different systems and now gives it, even just that connector could be only thing if you focus on can be $1 million revenue for you as the network grows. So what I'm saying is that when the gold rush happened, a lot of people went ahead to try and dig gold. But the money was made by the shovels and the wheelbarrow guys, right? So we can choose to be that. We can find out what is that area and we can choose to engage in those as well. We have got a significant, it's like a floodgate opening for us personally, where a lot of these big names who would never otherwise generally talk to us, reach out to us because we are the front runners in the B2B. Frankly, for every business, the biggest crunch, is, be it for in small and medium or be it also for a tech company, the biggest crunch is what? Heavily depend on specific individuals, right? And that is the reason why everybody will not go in to make their own entire system. And because ONDC is also today a moving target. When we came in, we were on 1.0.x version. And it'll be deprecated. We had to move on 2.0.1. Now we're moving on 2.0.2. When this movement was happening, there were no systems specifically initially. And ONDC is getting stronger and more mature by the day with more systems coming in that can streamline. So it's a good time to consider seeing and setting your goals aligned with how a system ONDC is bringing for you that you can work on and you can create. These are just situations, platforms that ONDC is giving an opportunity for you to leverage easily. Now imagine if you do not have a, now let's say Copilot is coming and helping you code, right? When today you think of it as an possibility, 5 months, 6 months back, you will not even imagine that can happen, correct? 6 months back, you were thinking, I will need to go through doing all of it myself. Imagine before these IDEs were there. Maybe color coding for the code you're writing, you're used to a specific way. Before all of that was there, it was not easy, right? What ONDC has done is, ONDC has brought you something like a Copilot, right? You've got all the entire framework that's ready for you to leverage, use and build and also collaborate. It's an amazing community. Here we find ourselves interacting with our competitors in the regular market and helping each other out because that's how it is. There's also, I think, while we genuinely are, doing that, there's also some sort of a fear that you might be labeled that you are not a part of the community if you don't do that. So either ways, you've got people out there helping you out, working out with you and, doing these specific cases so that if you have an idea, you can chalk it out, sketch it out, work it out, leverage on all the protocols, all the details available and take it forward. It's as simple as that. So with that, I think, the sky is the limit for us to do a lot of things to happen over here. Open to questions or, any specific details that you might want. Because practically we have done it. We've had the trouble of, shifting from version to version. We lost some customers. We lost some reputation in the sense, when we were shifting from one version to another version, we wanted to also change our UI. And we thought that's a very good time to change our UI. The UI was changed and we showed the customers this is the UI, now we're going to shift the version. They said UI is good, we are better, we are happy with it. But then the shift to our logs didn't get approved by the time we wanted to go live, and then we had a big difficulty managing. I'm just saying it is not all that easy, but it is not impossible. It's an amazing opportunity for you to take it and move forward. From our perspective, what we're doing now is really not anywhere close to what I've said now is not really close to what we are really doing under the hood. We're doing a lot more under the hood. We are working on very specific cases to see how we can increase traction, increase numbers, increase business. We're not dealing only with businesses. We are even working to see how we can create a lot of other systems and not like trying to do too much. Very specific cases from what we're doing. And if you choose just one of it, you have the opportunity to move ahead and, work out more. I think after a few questions, I'll just highlight on how we went about it, how you can go about starting it from ground zero.
Okay. Let's have a short coffee break
Yeah, sure.
so that people can even know each other, any other. And then they have planned for a small quiz. Hello? Yeah. So there is a short quiz in between. So how is it going? Good. So what the I can see that many of the questions is around the trustworthiness or the credibility of ONDC. Is that who governs it, etc. I'll tell you one story when Sujit came here. Sujit, person behind backend, he was telling the story of UPI. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear.
So Sujit was, so the team was working on UPI. You know UPI, right? Right? Everyone use UPIs. And the same principle is what is applied there, right? All the banks trust a third party, an NGO that runs the UPI. Google, Paytm, PhonePe, everyone came and built the seller apps. No, buyer apps, right? The client side apps. You are using it and making the payment. And it made the banks interoperable. Each bank had their own application. Used to log in, you used to enter the account number of the other person whom you need to do the transaction. You used to enter the IFSC code, then do the transaction. How many of you use it right now? For bank transaction, if you want to do a transaction of 5,000 rupees to another person, how many of you use that? Okay. All of you, anybody use that? Everyone use? What will you use now if you want to send money? Google Pay. Majority use Google Pay, right? So you just think when the UPA started, they are telling like the banks that we will come up with something that help you do the transactions interoperably with something called a UPI ID. And you can send the payment to some, even to the phone number. So how will they convince the bank? Because bank is very much fond of what? Credit cards. They have POS machines. There are POS machines in each shop, right? People have to carry the credit card in their hand and then there is a transaction cost that is there and people are spending from their credits, not from their bank account. And Sujit was telling like when they went and pitched UPA to SBI, they just told that don't waste our time. Because our business is completely different and we do not want this something that you call UPI, right? Then I think this Paytm also declined. Paytm also told that we do not want to be part of that because they are into the credit card market and we are into this much X percentage of credit card industry and we want to get more. And as of now, I think more than 3 trillion transactions happen in UPI. And trust, it will take some time. But today, do you think like SBI will say like we do not want to be part of the network? What will happen to them? So that is the effect of the network. And everyone become part of the network just because of FOMO, fear of missing out. It might not be because they are very much interested in the business that is everyone is spending from their bank account. They would surely prefer credit card transactions, right? But still they are part of the network just because of FOMO. They have to be part of the network. And that is what normally it is being said like, it is not maintaining a garden. I think Koshi was the one who actually tell like it is building a forest. It is just like a forest. What will scale? Garden or forest? Forest. Garden need a gardener. He need to plant and if he doesn't water, it may die off. But forest, there is no need for a gardener. It will automatically get into equilibrium over the time. There will be wrong players in the system, but eventually they get wiped out and the trust will become the core and those who provide trustful service will exist. So this is a very early stage of ONDC. Normally we get opportunity to work on those type of things only when it's mature, right? So we are always have a feel of follower. We do not try out new things. We just want somebody to get it established and then we tell like, yeah, now we can start. But this is an opportunity for you to start at the early stage and as you could imagine anything, there is a possibility there. Right? You know, like UPI is there. There are small SaaS platforms that came there that sells to the banks. That is the pay, payment solutions. That is, you know, like payment decline and certain, there is a retrial of that. There are certain SaaS products. You know, like in your shop, there is something that says the transaction amount of 20 rupees. It is just a text to voice conversion, right? Just because there was a problem there in the UPI transaction that the seller cannot trust that whether the person has transacted. He have to go and check the account. So there is a new problem UPI brought in and millions of such machines got into the market, right?
Just to add on to the trust part that you just said right now, very quickly, anybody else who would take up the backend protocol and try to run it the way it is, anybody else, the level of the traction you see today would not happen. It is only because people have the trust that it is government backed, yet not government owned. It is a Section 8 company and still there is a clear guidelines, there is a clear policy, there's a set of rules that, guard the whole thing. That's why it's going to work and scale, and trust part is, I think, already solved. It's about now the faith part of people jumping in and doing, I think. The trust part is solved from day zero.
Yeah. And you all use internet. Who owns that? Who owns internet? You all use that, right? You all build application and deploy it, right? Do you check like whether I could trust internet? ICANN is owning it. Is an NGO, right? So you register a domain. Anybody can go and publish it, and there might be websites that actually steal money from people. But is it the problem of internet? No. So that is what the same way ONDC provides that network that brings you a lot of opportunities on whatever you want to do in the market. Okay. So I would like to invite Saraswati. They were planning like it is a actually today is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to all. So when Nitin was talking to me, he was telling me like it is Valentine's Day. It might so people might not come. So there might be we might be talking to MD. Okay. So
Hi guys, I'm Saraswati Devi, and I'm here to just have a very a very little quiz session, and uh, well, I'll just ask a few questions, and participants who will raise your hands first will get a chance to answer the question. Okay? Are you guys ready? Make some noise, like it would be good. Okay. Happy Valentine's Day. എനിക്കിങ്ങനെ പറയാൻ അറിയില്ല guys. Okay. So the first question is who okay, whoever answers the question, they have a gift. Okay, by the gift will be delivered by Chaitanya. Chaitanya is there with lot of hearts. Yeah. No, thanks. Okay. As you see here, the instruction is the first person to raise their hand will get the first chance. And if the guy gets an incorrect answer, we'll move on to the second person who raised their hand. Okay. So the first question is, who is the CEO of OpenAI? Okay, I need help. Okay, Julian, please. He was the question. Okay, please answer. Okay, and that's the correct answer. What's your name?
Rohit.
Okay. Next question. Okay, here he is. What AI model developed by DeepMind achieved a breakthrough in predicting protein structure? AlphaFold option B. Uh, AlphaFold option B. It's correct. I'll let him read
Come again? You want me to read that? AlphaFold's innovation is considered a major leap in biology, potentially accelerating medical research and drug discovery.
Would you like to share something about AlphaFold from your information?
So basically, protein folding is a problem where you try to kind of guess how proteins are in 3D, right? Uh, and there was really not a good way to do it. People used to do a ton of experiments, and then they have classified a very small fraction of the proteins known to man, right? And then what happened was DeepMind, the researchers at DeepMind took all of the known proteins and the structures that we've discovered, and then they've trained a neural network to try to understand this, right? And then they gave like thousands of proteins that we have never classified before, and some things that actually stumped people for like 25, 30 years, right? And it gave the structure. And what these biologists and people did was, with the structure, they conducted more experiments just to verify that this is the right structure. And then they found that it was actually, according to what the model said. So that was something really, really new, and probably going to lead to a lot of new drug discoveries. A lot. It's going to accelerate a lot of things in clinical research.
Thank you. That was really. Okay, I would like to move on to fourth question. Because the answer is not clear. I'm so sorry about that. No, answer is clear, but it's not in the option. Okay. Ah, yes, sorry. Sorry. So yeah. Should I ask? Okay. Satoshi Nakamoto is a mysterious founder of something in tech who no one has really seen. What is it? Bitcoin, yeah. Erased. Okay. Huh? What is the name of Microsoft's free email service?
Outlook.
Sorry, you raised your hand second time. Hotmail, yeah, that's right. Hotmail was one of the first webmail services and was launched on July 4th, 1996, symbolizing freedom from ISP-based email. And next question, what was the first computer virus? Sorry. Anyone else? Just give a guess. There is no loss, right? Okay, come here. Ah, hi. Yeah, just come up with any option. If it is wrong, it's wrong. That's it. Anyone? Just have a guess.
I think it's Morris Wong.
Two more options. What? Who said creeper virus? Huh, correct answer. Okay. And I actually would like to add one more question. And no, one more question. Which website is created on Valentine's Day? Which website is created on Valentine's Day? Anyone? It's very famous. We all use that. No. No, no. YouTube. Yeah. YouTube was launched on February 14th, 2005. Thank you. What was it? Jaydeep. Okay, Jaydeep. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so let's continue the discussion. So it was just a tea break, and so so I think. Does anyone see immediate opportunity for you to work on ONDC, or anybody who is currently working on ONDC, or who, okay? So just
So we so we are building a platform which can automate the catalog generation part. So we help to generate product photos, description, and social media ads automatically with the product photos and all. So that's what we are building. And we had a conversation with a couple of team members with ONDC as well. So
Excellent.
hope, yeah, it works. Yeah.
My only suggestion is don't keep building it. Just release it fast and get the feedback and don't waste time. And so there's so many people doing this. There's so many doing this. You roll it out. Just don't. You roll it before even you build it. I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, all seller apps, sellers would be happy to, get access to something that can turbocharge the entire cataloging
So you can
process.
connect with us and we can see how best we can leverage, and see how best we can, and we can give connects to a lot of other apps we are in touch with. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
ഞങ്ങൾ LSP ആയിട്ട് Uh, hello.
Yeah. Say loudly, just say loudly.
LSP at onboard.
Hmm.
Advanced stage of development.
Logistics service provider. All right. Okay. Excellent. So for B2C or B2B? Both. All right.
Hyperloop.
Hyperloop. Any questions, doubts? I mean, any discussion
So
points?
anyone else found an immediate opportunity with ONDC after listening to the session so far? Is there anyone? I think there are some researchers here. So what do you do on ONDC?
Actually, MSME lack this kind of marketplace to selling their products.
Yeah.
So, uh, my name is Lakshmi. I'm currently working as assistant professor in DCS Met. So, I am doing my research in MSME. So, actually, MSME has a relevance to, for a common e-marketplace um, because what actually most of the MSMEs lack their profitability due to this technology adoption problems. So how can MSMEs leverage this ONDC for selling their products?
All right. So I think very easily they can leverage. First thing, no, it's very easy. They have to want to leverage. Agatuna are feeling madam Veyanamnada. Because we have reached out to thousands of MSMEs and we are running behind them saying, do this. I mean, it seems that it is our need as a seller app that they come on board. So my point is, first of all, MSMEs need to know that they have to have their business on the network and it is only a one day, half day process. They don't do the basic part of giving the details, knowing what they sell, that information. So cataloging can help and all that. But I'm just sharing my, deepest pain point that we have, that businesses don't take the effort to come on board. Like how SBI said that we don't need the system. MSMEs are not. So I think the first way of enabling this is, first of all, filter out businesses who are more than 1 year. Get those and let's onboard them. Anybody who's interested, we check and see they're like just registered. They've not managed to sell anything, and they're hoping this is the magic bullet that can solve the problem. So that mindset we have to change. Bring them on board. We can enable them to sell anywhere in India, even export. We also have the export protocols that is there. So even my dad, who is living a retired life, if he's got pepper or vanilla, whatever is in the backyard, he can choose to package it and even put it up on the network and say, I'd want to export it. It's as simple as that. It's like once you have, earlier we had to stand in a line in a PCO booth to give a call. Today we have a mobile phone. That's the difference ONDC has made. That you can just choose to onboard yourself and sell it anywhere.
I just want to add on, right, what Thomson shared is probably a deep personal experience of how in the MSME space where they work, the awareness and understanding is not there. And I want to use a word very carefully, right? You join the network. Right? This is not a marketplace. I just want to correct that. We're not a platform where you come and join and somebody else will come and buy. You join the network, get exposed to everybody in the world who's on the network trying to buy something. Right? And therefore, the operative word is join. Right? You join a college, join a team, you join something, right? There is effort required to be done. But what we have done is we have fundamentally simplified the joining process, right? You don't have to put a website, you don't have to find demand, you don't have to do 100 other things. Somebody like Thomson will come, talk to you, understand what you sell, right?
Onboard.
Figure it out, onboard, and you're part of the network, right? Orders will come. You continue to be there, and the whole process of joining the network has been simplified so that there can be rapid digitization and rapid onboarding leading to digitization, right? And that's essentially how we think of it as a game changer, right? It's like, it's not like day one you get on GPay that you had like 100 friends to send money, right? I mean, the early movers probably takes a little time, right? But the operative word is join. Yeah, thank you.
And I have Jikku. There is one question. So your Storybrain, he's the founder CEO of Storybrain, and his customer base include Flipkart, right? So are you planning to join ONDC? So why are you not in ONDC? Just explain your product like why are you looking for Flipkart, and right now he went to pitch to Amazon, and he's trying to see the and Walmart and individual players you are trying to. Why are you
So basically, we are not a selling platform. I'll just explain the product. We basically take a product page and convert it into a short video. So something that takes 2 minutes for you to read, we can directly create a 8-second video out of it. I can actually show you after this. So basically, what happens is anybody under 23 doesn't read anymore, right? So what we are doing is exactly. So whatever, sorry, any video that we are actually providing, we will reach a completion rate of 97 to 98%. Typically, it is 30 or below that. So the point is, if you actually build a video that has 85% of all information of a product and make it attractive, people will watch it. And there is a reason why this happens. In the last 5 years, most of you know, your primary modality of communication is through Reels or TikTok. Even though it's banned here, most of outside the world it is like that. Just to give you an example, in US, 10% of news consumption is through TikTok. That is a staggering number. So I'll give you a small story. I like stories. So imagine there is an old person. I'm not pointing anybody. Imagine there is an old person over here, and his or her child here, and I'm going to ask a question. You have to enact how you're going to do a specific action that I'm going to say. For example, if you say jump, this person will jump and this child will also show it to jump. But if I ask a question like this, can you enact typing? You know how the old person will react? Like this. You can imagine this, right? Do you know how his kid will react? Exactly. Can you show me? Can you show the audience? Like that. The difference is modality. Now let me ask you another question. If you ask the old person, how do you watch a video? He'll do this. Right? What will happen to the kid? How will the kid react? This, right? Why? Because your fundamental modality of communication has changed, right? So basically, what you are seeing in an Amazon page or a Flipkart page is the design for communicating that was built 30 years back. And it is already changed. That is 3-4 years back. We are essentially bringing the same user experience that you get in TikTok or Instagram Reels to e-commerce. So essentially, we are hoping you're through ONDC, you're essentially unbundling a lot of things. So you have a schematic representation of products. What we can take is, we can ingest that and give a dynamic product page that is specific for the specific segment that you're selling to. I'll give you an example. You have seller app. So a typical seller app will have a UI for a particular product. Let's say it's a perfume shop. Let's say it's a shoe shop, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Okay, sorry. I meant buyer app. Sorry. I didn't mean seller app. The buyer app, exactly. The buyer app has the UI, but that is fixed. What we can do is, we can take the catalog, that is basically structured information, and provide you back a dynamic UI. Essentially, what it means is, right now you're talking about unbundling each piece. Even the buyer app can be actually split into pieces. That is what we are doing. But anyway, I'm not sure whether it was clear for everybody.
It was very clear. I was just going to say he's.
This is exact. Yeah,
You're the person with the maximum opportunity.
I'm coming
and
to.
You don't need to get onto the network.
I'm going to bother you with a lot of requests right now. So after this, so
yeah, but just to highlight from my experience, you don't even have to worry about the protocols or the versioning or anything.
Nothing.
You're the
I
safest
just need a
guy.
schema. That's it.
And
you'll get it.
And you're done.
I don't even need structured data, for instance.
Absolutely.
That's the way we have built it.
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand.
Yeah, if anybody wants to see how the product works, come and meet me. I'll show you. Thank you.
Adding on to what Thomson said, I think it's a great opportunity. See, companies like yours, the catalog one, yours in terms of making videos out of the catalog, etc. See, we call them as TSPs, technology service providers, right? TSPs could be tech companies that build buyer apps and seller apps that others use, or solve some other problem. And like it was beautifully articulated that he's unbundling the buyer app now, right? Who said that the buyer app has to be one, while we unbundle the platform and build a buyer and a seller app, who said that the buyer app cannot be unbundled, right? Great opportunity, right? And it's also worth thinking and more food for thought, and we can pick this up offline also, right? You could be a video buyer app TSP, right? So to say, right? So that you source from the protocol, let somebody else run the business.
If I remember right, around 3 years back, TikTok was banned here. Two major investors, angel investors, one you might know, Naval Ravikant and Balaji Srinivasan. Both of them are very popular. They came out and gave out a message to all Indians. If anybody wants to build a competitor to TikTok, we are funding you. So basically, with that context, I'll let you know, there is a tagline. This is not my tagline. While I was pitching this to a customer, he called his colleague saying that, hey, this is an interesting idea. So he gave a context to what we are doing instead of me. So he said, you know what they're doing? They're TikTok for e-commerce. I was so shocked to hear that. But that is exactly what you mentioned. Thanks a lot for that.
We'll connect offline, yeah.
And then he has a flight to take today. Okay. Oh, you have time. Okay. And then you are into document audits actually. That is a huge opportunity there in audit.
So there is a huge opportunity for audit if you're an audit. There is a reconciliation. There is a RSP provide RSF service settlement framework. There's an RSF, and there is a reconciliation service provider RSP. That is your avatar that you will take, and
Got it. So basically what we are doing is the standard way of doing it is you have a bunch of people going through hundreds of documents and figuring out, okay, what is where, are the signatures the same, exact, all of those things, right? And what we want to do is a lot of this is rule based, and then you just have a fancy degree to make sure that all of those things are qualified, and then you can sign off on it, right? What if by the time you reach the computer, all of this thing is already done with proof, right? And so instead of an RPA giving you an Excel sheet, we give you, hey, this is, I think, this thing is off by a bit, and here's why. Here's the proof. Here's this document. Here's this section of this document, and it's not right. And if you have it all digitized, we can actually point to very specific fields. And I would love to talk more and learn more about the opportunities.
we would love to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn from you and see how we can take this forward. Yes. Any other questions? Anything else?
Hi, we are doing some WhatsApp commerce platform for last few years, something people can order via WhatsApp. We are working with the WhatsApp, we are one of the partner of WhatsApp. So we are doing the automation for last 6 years, just want to see like how ONDC can leverage that part. We are doing on a WhatsApp commerce platform.
All right, perfect. So you asked how ONDC can leverage. I think
I mean, or we can leverage.
you should leverage.
Yeah.
I think yeah. So
Not
I'll tell you what.
ONDC.
I'm sure like 99% of the people here wouldn't have gone to the website ondc.org. How many of you have gone there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people. Yeah. So you've visited. Now, if you see, just go through the tech resources, developer's guide, white labeling. There's everything that you would require, you desire. You've got a complete tutor here if you want to start from ground zero. If you're somebody living in a village with no ecosystem around, and if you have access to internet, you can start off on your own app, buyer app, seller app service you want to provide. Number one. Number two, I would want to say is that you'll have the complete information. So I'll just quickly, why I'm saying is this because this is the clear thing that you need to do. If you go onto the developer guide side, you've got complete information on step 1, step 2, onboarding, understanding, everything. I mean, there's no more spoon feeding that we can ask for. That's okay. The next thing, you go there, once you're into it, you'll understand clearly from the swagger, the details. You can select the flow. You'll know all the different APIs that are there. You select. This is the latest version that we're working on now. Just want to highlight and say that what is available to you is not being gone through or seen. Sorry. Yeah. So. when we can have the people, accordingly involved. You have the complete swim lanes available here, the clarity you want. So if you would want to start off on WhatsApp and you say that you come here and to this number you start searching, it keeps telling you what to do, how to do. You have the full information here.
That's the execution bit, but taking a step back on your question on the business side, right? What do you think is your strength? Is your buyer side your strength or your seller side strength? What do you look at as in 6 years you have really accomplished?
We help businesses to discover through WhatsApp. Right now, recently introduced WhatsApp commerce service. So we have started building a module on WhatsApp solutions. So,
Understand. So I think that
so WhatsApp have a catalog feature which is for businesses. So where someone can place an order via WhatsApp. For example, like a restaurant can publish their catalog and they will able to order right inside the catalog. So that is including the payment systems. So WhatsApp have an inbuilt payment system. So I am just wondering how we could able to leverage.
We are already working very closely with that. They probably think about 5 lakhs of credits, per entity and all. Lots is coming, right? I think the way to think about it is that if you are providing a tech solution for others.
Yeah, we are providing a tech solutions. Yes.
You're a TSP.
Yeah.
And you can build the TSP on both sides.
Yeah.
Right? You could give a store the ability to come online, right? Run its own WhatsApp channel, right? Versus that store also gets ordered on that channel from ONDC Network. That's one way to look at it, right? The other is you can enable the tech that you build on WhatsApp to discover inventory on the network.
Correct.
Right? So somebody says, I want to launch a WhatsApp-based ordering system. You can integrate into the network to discover inventory.
Yeah, this is something which we need to, I am planning to discover how these things can be done, right?
Then a buyer app TSP. Somebody can take your solution, launch a number and say, I am not going to spend time on finding the stores, but I'm going to get customers for whom I'll find stores across. Right?
Yeah.
And therefore there can be an entire experience built.
Yeah.
But we're working very closely with Meta.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the clear point is that you have to define your business model. You can do all the tech you want. You can do everything you want, but we are also struggling to understand our business model in this specifically. So each of us have our own journey. So be clear how you want to make the money.
So in Woolly, you have tried ONDC, right? So can you give your experience or something that you want to share?
Hi.
Hello. No, we used to work with ONDC initially. We tested in ONDC. I think one of the first orders came into ONDC was in 2020, I think. 22.
April is when.
Yeah, exactly. We done the testing. It was nice, yeah.
Okay, please continue. So what are the opportunities for students? There are a lot of students here. And I know that Google is running some challenges to innovate in ONDC. And also, I think Build for Bharat.
Built for Bharat, and we pretty much work with most of the large tech companies, right? Run different programs. Just Google the tech company and ONDC will find something. We also have things like credits, etc., etc. And if the basic idea starts to make sense, these guys also offer accelerators and other supporting programs. And things starts maturing. There are multiple VCs, private equity firms in touch with us who are also looking to fund. A bunch of ONDC companies have got funded, right? And that definitely remains a track also to explore. Right? Yeah, one got bought out. Paytm just bought Bitsilla. Bitsilla is a seller app, got bought over by Paytm, right? And there are more in the pipeline. I think the other way to look at it is that if you're looking at building tech, right, then a lot of this you can start with the open source community. Right? There's a lot of problem solutioning discussion happening there where you can be a part of. We also look at people who come in and volunteer to do work with us in terms of ideas, solutions, etc. That's one opportunity. Of course, my favorite one is if any of you is thinking to build a business, right? You don't need to solve 2 or 3 components of that business now. You can start by solving one, be good at it. Let's go back to mobility. I mean, I'm ex-mobility, so I can tell you that typically you need to build supply and then demand, right? And find a way to match it, right? In the ONDC world, you can just build supply, let somebody else provide demand, And then eventually, if you want to get into supply, look at it, right? So the barrier to launch a business has come down because now you are in a collaborative ecosystem where different components are done by different companies versus earlier where all the components had to be built by you. So definitely makes it easier to participate in an e-commerce story.
Um, how far is a framework like ONDC adaptable for another country?
Very good question.
Very good question. Fundamentally, this is a country agnostic framework. There is no country limitation. What we're doing is we're doing an implement. There are several people who have taken Beacon and done implement, something happening in Gambia, something in Germany, right? People have used. Basically, we have built an implementation way of using Beacon to build businesses, right? So that's how we are building it, and it is fairly easily portable. We already have several countries asking, "Do you want to come talk to us?" All of that. But I think at the moment, this is an India story.
And then you have food platform, right? Which are countries you have the food platform?
So right now we are working with the network of major food manufacturers in the UAE. So I basically represent this network. So we are trying to build something similar to, I mean, we are heavily inspired by ONDC. So, and I have basically gone through your entire, everything basically. So, and so I was very interested to see how, if this is an open source thing, can we totally reuse it as such, or what is the possibility for that?
Everything is available for to use.
Just make the model work. That's all. Nothing stopping you. See, like now UPI is going to France and everything. UPI is a very different game altogether. But ONDC is, on the other end where you have the protocols, you create and you move forward and execute.
So next question. So we have Vishnu V. Nair there. He is the CEO of group of technology companies. It is around 280 plus IT companies in the state. So his question is, like a software service company, that is, what are the opportunities in ONDC?
TSP is the answer. You become a technology solution provider, you're a services, doesn't matter. What is, what's the company? A Plotch. Plotch is effectively enabling them through services. So we can, this,
And the customers for they are into service industry. Okay, so a customer comes in to build a product, they will build it for. They are not coming for here for building a product of their own. They just want to provide their service to others.
through traction. Prove through an experience that I have done this, therefore someone will come to you. No one is going to come to you because you are available to do service.
And what do they get showcased? How do they get visibility? In the ONDC website.
Yeah, all our TSPs, etc. are listed on the website.
Okay.
Thomson says, Thomson is talking about the peak of ambition, right? Becoming a TSP. There are smaller low-hanging fruits also. We do have a lot of work. For example, every app needs to go through a testing framework, right? And there's a QA framework, right? There's a lot of automation happening there, right? We have about 150 companies in the pipeline. Each company goes through, and we have, a whole bunch of empaneled service providers who do that work, right? And companies that are in testing, in QA, etc., especially in tech, could aim to build a business around it, right? Every company needs to go through what we call a tech certification and a QA certification before they go live on the network, right? Today we work with a set of partners who do that for us, right? With us managing the framework only, others do the testing. You could be an empaneled testing company, for example.
So it is just like you consider it like App Store or Play Store. They have a validation before having anything get enter into the network. So what sort of validation happens in ONDC?
First is the tech validation, which is largely protocol led, right? Is the protocol implemented correctly? Are the flows correct? So we typically do, tech log validation. You do a transaction, send us the logs, right? You upload the logs. So there is automation around reviewing the logs and finding out what anomalies exist, etc. Once the log verification process is closed, it takes 2-3 iterations sometimes, right? Then you go into a QA certification process where operations will actually do transactions and see if it works correctly, right? The tech log is only the tech side, right? It's only the back end and the way pages load, etc. Whereas the Ops, the verification is more about the process, what the customer will see, what the flow is payment happening correctly, is backend process like issue and grievance management happening correctly, reconciliation and settlement happening correctly. All of this gets validated.
Okay. And one another thing. For example, we currently have a e-commerce website which is into promotional product industry. So you come here, customize and do it. So I have to do the unbundling of this thing into different services, right? And I have to register each, for example, a buyer app, seller app, it can be there. And
I mean, you can be a buyer app or seller app or both, but more as a TSP, right? And you will have to unbundle.
yeah. Okay. So from EY, ISO certification is there anything that you have to do with the, you tell what you do and what is the, asking is the knowledge.
Actually, my name is Ima and I'm working in EY as the quality head. Quality means not the QA, which is the testing, process quality assurance, wherein we have the CMMI, ISO certifications and all done. So I have a different question here, not related to this CMMI or ISO. It's related to information security, how the data security of these are handled. Just curious about that.
I think that's a great question. We get asked this often. It's a little late in the day. Normally, it's one of the early questions. See, fundamentally, if you look at the ONDC architecture, right? Security is built by design because we don't store any data, right? When a search is happening, we don't know who the customer is, right? You get a GPS point and say somebody here is looking for a product. Comes to the network. Network identifies which seller apps can provide it, broadcast it to them. They respond to the buyer app directly. So network doesn't have any data in that sense, right? And it is eventually the two companies that will transact, like in the real world today, right? You're buying from Paytm and the seller is on say Bitsila, right? They are the only ones who actually transact data, right? Which is say a PII or which is confidential or so on and so forth. So in that sense, the architecture is fundamentally built on cybersecurity.
And right now in India, we don't have the stringent rules for this data security or personal security.
I would disagree. The new act is fairly
Just coming, right? So right now it's not there. When it comes, my question is like when it comes, it would be more stringent. And if a person's use the seller or whatever happens to the buyer, it's responsible of this seller. And will ONDC be in between? And will it also have some kind of responsibility out there?
We are not a part of the transaction. As I said, early itself I said, we're not a part of the
No,
transaction.
as per the legal thing, will a person can sue?
Like I said, that's why I said to understand the model clearly, right? So if you are thinking platform. Yes, so just to highlight, it has ONDC comes in only for discovery. After that, order, fulfillment, post fulfillment, DOFP. Only D is with ONDC and there is nothing to do with data or privacy there. So ONDC is completely out of it. And by design, like how Nitin said. The responsibility and the large chunk of business for you is with the seller apps and the buyer apps, where you can go into the ISO certification and charge them for the service that you are doing that will enable them to be compliant with the new act that is coming. And let me flip this in a different way too. Let me give an example, right? Say there is a terrorist incident, right? Somebody logged in, sent an email, and there was a terrorist incident that happened, right? The email is a threat, right? Who is liable for this threat? Who all will be held responsible? Who all are the actors? Let's start at the actors, right? There is a person who issued a threat, right? He used a laptop, went to a browser, opened Gmail, wrote an email, sent a threat, which was from a third-party internet service provider, right? Now, when this threat is issued and there is any liability arising from this threat, will you penalize the laptop? Will you penalize the internet service provider? Will you penalize even the email service provider, right? I think that's the way you should need to look at it, that we are infrastructure, we are backend, right? We are agnostic to what is happening. What we are doing is fundamentally unbundling and interconnecting, right? We don't form any part of the transaction. We have no visibility on who was buying, who was selling, what was being sold, none of that. The only part, if at all we come in, is in the search and discovery.
After that, it's only the protocol that people use to talk to each other.
Understood. Thank you.
So if there is a fraud, will you see like internet company should be blamed of? So it just provide the infrastructure for that, and the transaction happens there, right? Without it doesn't have any knowledge, or it doesn't store anything. But one more question, like for example, as I mentioned earlier, the trust will happen only later. But initially, like when it is UPI, it is just like a digital transaction. But here there is a delay between the order as well as the delivery, right? And then a lot of frauds, a lot of problems may occur during the initial days. So how is the customer being covered? Because customer, the, okay.
Search, what you get as an answer on selecting, on confirming, on the status updates, and issues handled by support. I'm just saying these are all the APIs that are there that need to be leveraged. Your answer is all in the entire framework of what you asked. It's about how soon should somebody respond. Essentially, the API framework provides for, you want to know the status of your order, there is on status, right? You do a status call and on status will provide you, right? You want to know the order is confirmed, on confirmed.
So all those things happen with the buyer side, buyer app. But no, this thing that is, as a customer, I am interacting with the buyer app, not the seller app. I do not know who is selling. Buyer app is the responsible person for that.
May not. There may be cases where you know also.
Yeah.
I think there are two, three ways to look at it. One, like I said, you're talking to a buyer app, he will figure out what went wrong and see you through because he owns the customer. He owns the customer relationship. That's one, right? Second, the seller apps are accountable for whom they bring. Right? The seller app fundamentally has to do the verification, ensure that it's a bona fide company, whole bunch of things that are required under the e-commerce rules, laws of the land to bring the seller. Right? So that's the second. Third, the transaction level, whatever is happening is trackable and very clearly visible. Now, having said that, like any e-commerce transaction, will there be problems? Perhaps. Right? I mean, it's not like ONDC is the solution to all problems e-commerce, right? I mean, that's not how you should look at it, right? We're not solving all the problems in e-commerce or all the problems in digitization. We're solving a set of problems that is about enablement, so to say. I mean, that provision exists in that sense. Not just sellers, we look at, see, the seller apps are governed by our policy, right? Gatekeeper, right? So we, for example, even though you're inside, you can choose, they can choose to still time period. It's very fair in that, but you have to follow what is there. See, if you're not, ONDC can switch off any app on the registry if it chooses to. Right? All apps are discoverable basis their listing on the registry, the ONDC registry. No remediation and ONDC chooses to remove, that's technically possible. The moment you're not on the registry, you're not available on the network.
Should I have ways to curate all of that information that is coming in? So exponentially, we're hoping that it goes exponentially over time, right? Next couple of years, you might have. It's so, but if I start a startup that's creating a buyer app, right? Should my infrastructure from day one? It doesn't.
Quickly answer that question.
So I think we can have 5 more minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, so just to quickly answer the question. PIN code came in. We all know PIN code was bought in by PhonePe. And when PIN code is going to show the responses, they're already governed and checked. If somebody complains saying that PIN code is not showing everything, then the search and details happen within, that auditing happens. But PIN code has decided that they want to give a very specific experience to their sellers, to their buyers. They want to make sure the images are correct, images are good, it should be within the region. So you can put in your filter criteria to not, when you ping, you will only ping for the responses that you want to filter out for. So as a buyer app, you can choose to say what is the experience you want to give. And the experience I want to give is only hyperlocal, only those will show. You'll not have showing the whole of India. If you are, let's say, a Horeca buyer, so hotels, restaurants are going to just buy from you for what you're selling. You will not want to show plumbing solutions, right? So when there's, you will only even ping businesses who are giving, let's say, paper plates or chairs for the hotel or signboards for the hotel. You'll curate it yourself. So as a buyer app, you have the responsibility to say what is the experience you want to give, and that will solve for the problem. It's coming, it's on the way. I mean, if you can just imagine anything that is coming on ONDC, it's just about the protocols. You have your story and endpoints.
So one important question that he is asking is like, there may be eventually after 1 year or 2 years, there may be millions of people who will who sell the same phone which I want to buy. So how does this get prioritized? For example, Google index those things based on the credibility and trust of the product, right? So the first one will come, there is a SEO score or certain things so that search result happen. Here, each seller transact directly or directly with the buyer app, and this thing comes in an async model, right? So how do they prioritize which one is the best one? Yeah.
Customer experience
Yes.
tries multiple factors.
Yes.
So essentially, discriminatory manner where and the consumer has the right Pro Max is 1,50,000, 47,000. That's the first one is price, right? Or it's a combination of say who's the best seller. On the buyer app's choice of criteria, it's good. Just it has to
are also heavily machine learning driven, right? For each user, you can have a so for me it is like it understands that I am a cheap, I buy cheap stuff, right? Deepu might buy something from very high, profile leads.
So I think essentially there the policy will say that it will be based on the user preference or user buying behavior.
So do you have to disclose the machine learning, model and nothing?
See, the thing is that the way to look at it is that that's not for something for ONDC to get into. And the user will go to that and serving this lead. Absolutely.
It's all possible.
All everything that generative AI does can be possible, but it's not possible.
There was a huge session with I think Google Cloud CEO coming down to Bombay, Delhi, giving the session of how generative AI is being used in ONDC. It's already being used. Yeah, people can. I mean, you can a buyer app can choose to use it as you would want to.
Yeah.
So the questions will go on like normally after fireboard the discussion go up to 2 a.m. But unfortunately you have like
Thanks for warning.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and would like to.
Yeah, we would like to thank you for this opportunity, each of you coming here and for hosting us. Thank you, Deepu and team, for a wonderful platform, for all the care you've taken, and most important, I think the real value that Nitin and I we can give is for those who will reach out, say, for the network. I mean, any discussion, including the video app that's created, the catalogs. All of us here are very focused on making sure that we help each other out. It's not that we are just thinking that we are doing a favor. In fact, you are doing a favor to us by checking out and seeing what best how we can help you. Thank you.
I would just want to add to what Thomson said. I think we look forward to having as many of you building products, services, features, businesses on ONDC network, right? With that, I think I'll conclude. Thank you. Jai Hind.
So, so how was the session? So I think like we need to have more office hours on back. So we have started the Backend Open Collective, and in continuity to that, we want to have ONDC in the learning network. We have something called MuLearn, where there is around 30,000 students as part of the network across the state, and what happened is like they learn something, then they have to implement it. For example, if they learn web development, they have to bring one T-shop online. So right now, this is an opportunity for these students to go and bring a Kirana store to connect to the ONDC network. So Beckett is working on the curriculum for them to learn Beckett, and then they are going to promote it through Mueller. I think we will have someone responsible for ONDC also, because the way it happens is that we will have a think tank group for each interest group, and they meet once in a month, 1 hour.
I just want to take this opportunity to introduce Rahul. Rahul is our local representative. Rahul is based in Trivandrum. Anything on ONDC is your first protocol, right? Somebody locally there to help you navigate ONDC. If you need any help, Rahul is your first protocol. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So let's officially wind up the session, and just before that, there is one more news. I would like to invite Salahuddin. Like there is something amazing going to happen in 23rd of February.
Okay, guys, my name is Salahuddin. On the February 23rd, there's an event which is happened long way back, 10 years back. So we have some alumni to talk about it. So we can see who is it.
So there is something called in 50 hours. That is, you can come up with an idea, but you do not know the technology to build it. There will be people around, mentors or developers or makers who will help you build that product. And you imagine by the end of the third day, 50th hour, you will get a prototype which you can pitch in front of investors. And there is no red tapes. It is your product, you can take it. How will it be? So that is going to happen on 23rd of February. So we have done it before. When we inaugurated this office 10 years before, we did the first in 50 hours. And so it was, so there are certain startups that started from this place. One is called Open. You have heard about the first unicorn from Kerala, the 100th unicorn in Rajesh Achudan. He actually literally built his first product here in this flow. It was called Inlocate. Okay, and that is how he actually he envisioned to be a government servant. He actually got converted as a entrepreneur. So there is someone called Robin Alex Panika. He right now handles a unicorn venture fund of 1,000 crores. He actually found his co-founder in this flow, and they built 5 nodes. I think there is Arjun Sadish, Arjun Arpillai, a lot of different people who has built the products towards scale. Started from that, we were lucky to have them there. So they are coming back because they didn't get a chance much to contribute back to the next generation, and right now they are coming back as the Avengers, they will be there to support you and mentor you to take your product to the next level. And even if you have already a product, for example, there is something called urban trash. So you already have a product, he will, but technology wise he is lacking. So they can come back and ask like how to make it better. So there will be very good mentors who will help you, groom you to make it. So let's listen from Ajish. Yep. So to hand over the token of appreciation to the speakers. So Thomson, please. So Anjali and Ridish for the committee this month. Every month we will have people and thank you. Yeah. So Anjali. So thank you so much, Thompson and Nitin, and also Rahul for coming down. And we would surely have more conversation there. They have to get back immediately, so there won't be an afterward session with the speakers, but we'll be available. Those who want to stay back, please do stay back. And by this, we will officially close the 112th edition of Fireboard 80. Next month's Fireboard 80 is on Honest. It is another network of backend. So it is on the education sector. Okay. Yeah, it's on scholarship. So Salahuddin, on 50 hours, anything that you want to add?
So and this event is not like based on to all the techies and all. It's open to everyone. Ideator is open, designers, developers, everyone can come over and support the idea, or if you want to have to work on a new idea or something like that, or if you want to ideate on something, like you have an idea, like your guys are coming for fire policy every time, so you will be having some sort of idea that you want to make it up. So it's a great avenue for you guys to try out on your idea, get vendor support, and also get insights from the industry experts. So we can hear from Ajish.
Hello everyone, my name is Ajish. I'm one of the co-founder and CTO at Open. In 50 Hoursനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയുകയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ 10 വർഷം മുന്നെയാണ് ഇൻ 50 Hoursന്റെ ഫസ്റ്റ് ഇവന്റ് ഹോസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിരുന്നത് ആൻഡ് ഐ വാസ് വൺ ഓഫ് ദ പാർട്ടിസിപ്പൻസ് ഇൻ ദാറ്റ് അലോങ് വിത്ത് മൈ അതർ ഫ്രണ്ട്സ്. അപ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങൾ ഇതിൽ സൈനപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഐഡിയ മാത്രമേ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നുള്ളൂ. ഈ ഐഡിയ എങ്ങനെ ഒരു പ്രോട്ടോടൈപ്പായിട്ട് കൺവേർട്ട് ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ളതിൻ്റെ ഒരു വി ഡിഡ്ന്റ് ഹാഡ് എ ക്ലൂ. സോ പക്ഷേ വാട്ട് awaited us for that 50 hours was completely surprising. കാരണം കുറേ ഡെവലപ്പേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, മെൻറ്റേഴ്സ്, all of them helped us to actually build this idea into a real prototype. അങ്ങനെ അന്ന് ഇപ്പോഴും ഓർമ്മയുണ്ട്, രാവിലെ 4 മണി വരെ ഇരുന്ന് ideated, we did trial and error, and finally we had a working prototype which we could present to the investors the next day. So ഞങ്ങൾ one of the top 10 finalist ആയിരുന്നു അന്ന്. പക്ഷേ it's not getting into the finalist, but our 50 hours of journey was life changing and rewarding for all of us who were in that event. So I'm really excited and looking forward for the next in 50 hours event, which is going to happen in Technopark from February 23rd to 25th. So if you are a budding entrepreneur or if you are a budding techie, you guys should register and experience that 50 hours of that journey. So looking forward and see you all there in the event.
So shall we have a quick photo with the speakers? The car is coming. So we will, yeah, please come.